And we are live. Guys, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Bassin Magazine podcast. Bassin Magazine is the official magazine of the Weekend Angler. My name is Jay Angel. I'm going to be your podcaster for this evening. And Brad Yule is busy tonight getting his magazine out again. Hopefully he'll be able to make an appearance a little bit later. I sure hope. But tonight, we're going to be talking to Eric Evans. Eric Evans is a social media director of iBass360. I'm excited about this. iBass360 does so much for the bass fishing world. But enough of me. Eric, how are you doing?
I'm good, Jay. Thanks for having me on tonight. I really appreciate it.
Well, it really is quite an honor. I just love talking to people who are just as nuts about fishing as I am. It's so much fun.
Absolutely.
So tell us, iBass360, like how long have you been doing this?
Well, my partner is Rob Zorn. He's a Jersey guy, and I'm actually a Pennsylvania guy, even though I'm coming to you tonight from Valley Head, Alabama, which is where I'm working these days. But Rob is a testicular cancer survivor.
Okay.
And he had this crazy idea that he could use fishing as a platform to support community activities, health awareness, and that just really appealed to me. And it appealed to me at a time in my life, about 10, 12 years ago, when I was looking to take my own personal fishing game to a new level. At that point in time, believe it or not, I was just a spinning guy.
Yeah.
And every time I touched a bait caster, it was a bird's nest and I threw it down. And so I said, I want to join a collective of anglers where I can learn something and I can give something. So I reached out to Rob, and the more we talked, the more we clicked. And he was looking for somebody to help create social media platforms for his idea. And I said, well, I'm a good writer. I love to write. I'm not Mr. Technology, but I know enough to be dangerous. And so we started iBass360. And we started off as a collective of anglers who were indeed socially minded. One of our oldest members is Misty Schmidt from down near Athens, Texas. And Misty is part of Pink Fishing. And every year she sponsors a tournament to raise money for breast cancer patients, people in that community down in Texas who are fighting the struggle real time. And so we started working with Misty on that, and we've sponsored that tournament ever since. But Misty is the kind of angler that we wanted to attract. And today we support 4 major charitable type organizations: testicular cancer awareness, breast cancer awareness, autism, and diabetes. And each one of those has touched our lives in some way. As I said, Rob's a cancer survivor. My sister is a breast cancer survivor. I have adult onset diabetes, and I have a granddaughter who is on the autism spectrum.
Sure.
And we have members who all have causes that they're close to. A guy in New York, Joe Diano, fishes every year for My Little Buddy's Boat fishing tournaments to raise money for autism. We have a club in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, that every year they raise money for the Philadelphia ALS, the Lou Gehrig's disease.
Yes.
So, that was our core. And then as I started more and more writing, I said, well, this membership we have, they're not only socially minded, they're a talent pool. They're a knowledge base. So I started mining them for knowledge, and we would co-write blogs. We would do posts. We would do lake reviews, tackle reviews. And it just became a growing organic thing from there. And we established our Facebook presence. on Facebook, we have about 250,000 organic views for any 30-day period.
Wow.
And that's not paying for any sharing. That's just us grinding it out. So we do news. You've seen some of our posts where we, I do my spin on covering the MLF Bass Pro Tour, the old FLW Tour, which has been rebranded Tackle Warehouse Tour, the Bass Opens, the Elite Series, and we also promote anglers. So young guys and women who are starting out or they're established on a trail, we promote them and we work with them to use our platform to promote their sponsors and help them gain sponsorship.
We also work with,
and the last thing we do is we work with, I'll say, upstart businesses. Guys who are starting out, they're tying their own jigs, they're pouring their own plastics, they're airbrushing their own crankbaits, and they're trying to get established, and they need some marketing advice, some presence. So we're doing a little bit of that, all under the umbrella of any money we raise, we give back to those causes that we support, either by sponsoring tournaments, sponsoring anglers who are raising money for that cause, or making direct contributions. But that's really iBass360. We're a little bit of everything, a collective of anglers who are socially minded, and a marketing platform, a social media platform to get the word out about our industry and the causes that are important to us.
I really liked that you had to write up about Luke Palmer. Geez, his day in the sun, man. It was great to see.
Yeah, I mean, it was so much fun watching him on the live stream. I mean, that natural excitement, that enthusiasm, fist pumping his cameraman. It was, and of course, he's also a religious guy, giving glory to God. It was just very, very exciting to see him do so well and take home his first blue trophy.
He not only won, he dominated.
Yeah, well, it wasn't the only dominating performance.
More than the guy in 10th.
How about Alton Jones Jr. at the heavy hitters?
Yes,
that final day was so unexpected. In 100 years, I never would have predicted a runaway like that after the build up on Caney Creek and the struggle that everybody had all week long.
Yeah, but he found a shad spawn, which is, I live in Louisiana, man. If you can find a shad spawn, and also they don't even start fishing till 8 o'clock. Most shad spawns are done before 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
It gets hot down here, man. Today it got up to almost 90 degrees, and yeah, it's going to be that way till October now, but that's exciting. He found that in shad spawns, white spinnerbait, shad spawns, and he only had one because he was freaking out because he was afraid he was going to lose it.
Well, we're trying to, get familiar with some of the different pros and get them to be familiar with us and do interviews. I've done a series that was in our blog with Chad Pipkins, featured him because he's a good friend of a friend, and Gray Buck is from my area in Pennsylvania. So, slowly but surely we're getting, people to be more aware of us and building those relationships so that we can share that knowledge that they have with our audience.
That's incredible. It's
taken, this whole iBass360 thing, it's taken us some crazy places. I'm going to tell you one story, Jay, that's my favorite story, and I know it's Rob's favorite story. So we built a relationship with a woman named Alyssa Johnson. Alyssa fishes for the Lady Bass Anglers Association. She's won the Lady Bass Classic. And Alyssa has a very close relationship with Gary and Beverly Yamamoto. Ooh. She actually goes on their ranch and does charity events with them for what's the Jay Yellis organization, Cast for Kids.
Okay.
Gary and Beverly do a Cast for Kids every year, and Alyssa goes and helps organize that. They do some other outreach like that for kids in that part of East Texas. And they've just gotten very close. And Alyssa invited Rob and I down to stay at the ranch.
Wow.
It just so happened that we were at the ranch the weekend that Gary sold the business.
Oh.
And Gary and Beverly were just there by themselves. And as you can imagine, that was a lifetime of work for both of them. And it was very emotional for them. And they invited us into their home. And Gary made us a blueberry pie. He is quite the cook. He really is. Man. And it was just a humbling experience for us. And it was just such a warm, welcoming environment, to be in the Yamamoto home, to hear Gary tell stories, about growing the business, and the trials and tribulations of selling a business, which is something that I know a lot about because I work in finance, in the private equity world for my non-fishing job. So it was just really an amazing thing that never would have happened without fishing.
Yes. Yes, I agree with that.
And of course, going to the Bassmaster Classic for the first time this year. And the same day, I met Kevin Van Dam and Rick Clunn.
Wow.
I mean, to me, that's royalty.
Yes.
8 Bassmaster Classics between the two of them. And then I was walking down a row and I saw Bob Cobb.
Oh, man.
He was and Bob treated me like I was his long-lost son. And we talked quite a while about Ray Scott, about the Classic. And it was just an amazing experience because, I started watching Bob Cobb, I don't know, I was in my 20s. And you could see from my gray beard that was not yesterday. And so talking to him and tapping his brain, wow. And then Bob insisted that he and I walk over to the portrait they had there of Ray Scott, right next to the trophy. And it was me, Bob Cobb, Ray Scott, and the trophy. And wow, you just don't have these experiences every day unless you build relationships in our business.
See, that's what I like about fishing. If you were into basketball, I don't think you could walk up to Michael Jordan and just BS with him like you can with Bob Cobb. And I have talked to a lot of my, you were in Minnesota. I got to sit down and talk to Al Linder, who I literally grew up. My dad had the very first magazine of Indian Fisherman in plastic, and now I have the first 4 years in plastic. And I'm going to keep those forever.
When I lived in Minnesota, one year my family vacationed up on Gull Lake, which is in Brainerd, which is Al's, hometown.
Yes.
And I spent more time keeping my eyes open on the water to see if I could find Al Lindner than I did fishing. He's an amazing man.
A very humble man, a very good Christian, one of the best. In my opinion, he's one of the best ambassadors of this sport that we love so much. And what I really like about Al, he's multi-species. The guy does it all. And I've only seen one interview with Al in my whole life, and I have looked for them for 30 years. And he said when he got back from Vietnam, he started all this. And he moved up to northern Wisconsin and started guiding. And he actually started fishing the Bassmasters, but he was doing the Bassmasters and in Fisherman. And he said it was just too much, so he decided to go with the in Fisherman. And I, for one, am glad he did.
I have to work harder. I don't see the angling edge on my general programming anymore. I'm not sure where. I'm sure it's somewhere, but it's probably on some cable channel that I'm not
Pursuit.
getting right now.
Pursuit.
Oh, is that where it is?
Yes, or at least it used to be. I haven't seen it in a long time. I've since have gotten busy trying to run 2 podcasts, and I don't get to watch TV much anymore.
No, I can relate to that. All my spare time is spent writing blogs and posts and sharing and hopefully fishing.
Yeah, and between fishing and my full-time job and 2 podcasts, and I have a wife, you know.
I mean, of course, the professionals make a fair amount of money if they're successful. But I can guarantee you, I mean, anybody out there who's thinking, hey, I'm going to make money in the fishing industry, those of us who are in it are doing it for sheer love. For sheer love. Nobody who's pouring jigs in their basement or, pouring plastics, airbrushing or doing blogging and sharing information. It's all, it can supplement.
Yes,
but they're really doing it because it's a passion. And that's really why iBass360, our logo is live the passion.
Live the passion. I like that.
Live the passion.
Feed the addiction.
That's the kind of people that we want to associate with. And that's the kind of people we hope that we are. That in everything that we do in life, we show others the passion for our sport of fishing and make them excited to want to know more.
Yes, I agree with you. And I actually was made aware of iBass360 through a lady named Kay Lowe, and she lives in one of the cooler places in the world. She lives between Sam Rayburn and Toledo Bend, which is, I just believe that's one of the cooler. If you're a bass fanatic like me, the town of Hemp Hill, all those towns between Sam Rayburn and Toledo Bend, there couldn't be a better place.
Well, I have not yet been out on either of those bodies of water yet. I've been on Lake Athens. Yes. I've been on Lake Palestine, but they're definitely on my bucket list. And having Kay take me is also on my bucket list because that woman knows that water. That woman doesn't go out fishing and not catch. She can find them and she can, get you on them with the right presentation.
Yes, and she's another very humble person, very good person, which, like you said, I completely agree with you. That's the kind of people I like to promote. That's the kind of people I like to have on this show. People who are easy to talk to, people who are great ambassadors of our chosen lifestyle, because it's more than just a sport for me. And I'm talking to you for 5 minutes, I can already tell it's more than just a sport.
Well, when Kay sent me information, on you and I did my homework, and then you invited me, it was just like, wow, these are the just kind of chance experiences that make this an exciting thing to do for all of us.
It is. That's why I do it, because like you said, I certainly couldn't support my family doing this.
So I mentioned to you earlier before we started the show, this weekend I'm heading up to St. Clair.
Yes.
Which is kind of, I guess, in recent years, it's become my home away from home. I've had kind of a crazy career. My wife also, we're kind of globetrotters. She is a deacon, ordained deacon in the Episcopal Church.
Okay.
And as I said, I'm in finance. And we both got to a point in our careers where our kids were all grown and out of the house. And we both wanted to do something different. And by chance, my boss came to me and he said, I need somebody to go and run our business in South Africa.
Woo.
And I knew the people down there very well. I had hired a few of them. even though I wasn't down there. I had been down there visiting, and I said, sure, I'll do that for, he said 6 months. I said, sure, I'll do that for 6 months. After 6 months, he came down and he said, boy, you really like it down here, don't you? And I said, well, you're not looking very hard to replace me, are you? And so I ended up staying there 4 years.
Oh.
And in the time that I was down there, the parent company, it was a company in the automotive business that made automotive leather. And in South Africa, this company made a lot of leather for BMWs. And they sent it up to Germany and incorporated it in the cars. They sent it to Spartanburg to incorporate it in the SUVs. But we did a lot of the leather for BMW down there. In that time, that business relocated from the Philadelphia area to Motor City. And so when I repatriated from South Africa, they moved me to Detroit. Meanwhile, my wife was going to Haiti. She lived in Haiti for 3 years while I was in South Africa. So, kind of crazy part of our life. But I repatriated to Michigan, and I said, well, what's Detroit like? And I just started doing my homework, and I said, oh, Lake St. Clair. And you really, a lot of, unless you're really into the sport, people don't know about St. Clair. Oh, they know about Ontario. Oh, they know about Erie. But unless you really follow closely, you don't know that St. Clair really is the smallmouth capital of the United States.
It's also one of the muskie capitals in the United States. It has one of the biggest walleye runs in the world. Goes right past.
So the first thing I did was I ran into a guy. One of the early people in iBass said, "Oh, Eric, you're in Michigan. You need to hook up with Marcel Beenstra." And so I called Marcel, and we got to talking. And Marcel has a guide service, and he's got a lot of people who, have guided for him, like Chad Pipkins, like Garrett Haskaret. Anyway, I can't really pronounce his last name, but he's also fished on the Elite Series and does the Opens. There are a couple different guys who have worked for Marcel, but Marcel is the smallmouth whisperer. I mean, this man fishes smallmouth like nobody else. And I went out and fished with Marcel a couple times, and Marcel said, "Hey, let me introduce you to a friend of mine, Ryan Said." And Ryan's a young guy. He fished a couple of years in the Elite Series and decided that he didn't want to mortgage away his life, to continue his career on the Elite Series. So he teaches. He's an engineer by education. He worked for Chrysler for a while. Then he fished on the Elites. And then when he left the Elites, he started teaching high school as his kind of winter job and guiding, in the spring, summer, fall, full time in the summer and then weekends when school's in session. And Ryan and I just hit it off. And I guess we've been fishing, I don't know. If I say 40 times over the years, I'm probably underestimating. But Ryan and I are going out on St. Clair this weekend for what will probably be the first of 3 or 4 trips that we'll do this year. And we usually do a Saturday or Sunday unless I'm fortunate enough to get off from work on a Thursday, Friday in the summer. But, we've just done amazingly well, and he's taught me so much about the different presentations. I had never done drop shotting before. I had tube fished, I had swim bait fished, but those are really, we drop shot, we throw tubes, we throw, Kitex on a 1/4 ounce jig head.
Sure.
And if we've caught a bunch and the fish are very active, then we'll switch to things like spinner baits or crankbaits. But if you really are working for them, you're using those more finesse presentations. And that's really, like I said, I joined iBass to really take my fishing to a whole nother level.
Sure.
And that's gotten me up to 5 pounds, 14 ounces as my personal best smallmouth. I know I had a 7-pounder hooked twice in the same day, and Ryan and I watched it jump off both times. Biggest smallmouth I've ever seen in or out of the water, in person. But speaking of muskies and drop shotting,
Oh man.
I caught a 52-inch, 32-pound muskie
Jeez.
on a on drop shot gear with a little poor boy's shad darter, or not shad darter, goby darter. I guess they call it Erie darter, but everything up there is all about gobies. You're imitating gobies. So
and you remember when gobies got into the Great Lakes, they also told us that this is the end of life as we know.
End of the world.
Yes.
End of the world as we know it.
And then it's also been proven to cause global warming. Sorry.
Yeah, it's interesting. Invasive species is a whole nother topic. I recently went fishing with a friend of ours. He's part of iBass360. He does the BFLs and some of the opens in the East, Nick Ferry. And Nick and I went down a couple weeks ago to the Susquehanna Flats. And I was really disheartened because some of our best bass spots where we thought we'd, get them either staging or just coming to the beds, nothing but snakeheads.
Oh, well, yeah. Snakeheads. People tell me they're fun to fight with, but they're not smallmouth bass.
Well, they hit hard and they fight hard for a little bit, and then they kind of just give up and let you reel them in. I don't know.
Sounds like northern pike. Yeah.
It's like I said, it was disheartening to see that they'd, chased the largemouth out of some of those spots. And I don't know what, at least in the case of gobies, between the gobies and the zebra mussels, it's been really a renaissance for some of these waters, right? The Thousand Islands, St. Lawrence River, Lake Ontario, Erie, the cleaning the water, the grass beds. I mean, we fish on the Canadian side of St. Clair, mostly in the grass flats on the southeast shore of St. Clair. That's where some of the best smallmouth fishing is. And this never would have been possible without the zebra mussels filtering the water and the presence of the gobies.
How about a 10-pound smallmouth out of Erie?
Crazy fish. I can't even.
Who would have thought?
Makes my head explode.
Who would have thought? And I have caught some real pigs.
What was it last year? They caught a fish over 8 pounds on Cayuga in New York. I mean, massive fish.
Just so much fun. Just so many fish, so little time, And, you were talking about tournaments. They just had a tournament here in the state I live in, the heavy hitters.
Yep.
Bussy Break is a whole can of worms. Living here in this state, I talk to guys who fish that, and they say, you don't even run your outboard. There is just so much cover. And they say the bigger the buck brush that you're fishing, the bigger the fish. And guys, run it and they throw wacky rigs into the buck brush, and I'm sure they're just tying direct to braid, and just you got to get him out of there if he's an 8-pounder or less, because remember last year 13-pounder came out of Bussy Break. This year,
so that's also Florida strain there.
Must be. I don't know that for sure.
I know they were talking about Florida strain on Caney Creek, and they were saying that was one of the reasons, because they had that cold snap that why they were being a little finicky, because Florida strain just don't
They don't
react
like.
well to the change in temperature.
I had the director of the Texas Sharelanker program on, and she claims that you don't get 13 pounders unless they're Florida strain. And she said that she does genetics on every 13 pounder plus. It has to be a 13 pounder before Texas Sharelanker will come and get it. But she said they do genetics on every one, and every fish over 13 pounds has been pure Florida strain, and they breed the 13 pounder with bucks that they had raised from previous, spawnings. They keep some of the males around so that they can have purebreds to go back into the water. Because, well, as we've seen, Texas has just exploded. I mean, 17.03 pounds caught this year. 17.03. That's just boys from the north. I can't comprehend that. I can't comprehend a 17.03 pounder. It's just 28 inches long. I had the guy on who caught that. 28 inches long, a mouth this big around, and he caught it on an Alabama rig. So,
yeah, it's crazy stuff.
Of course, the guys tell me who catch fish that big. I never have. Biggest one I ever caught was 7 pounds, and it was a largemouth. And that fights.
I'm at that point where my biggest smallmouth is bigger than my biggest largemouth, and we're trying to change that down here in Alabama, but it's going slow.
You will. You'll change it in Alabama. Of course, people said that living in Louisiana. You're going to change it. I live in Louisiana. Well,
you have to find the time, right? We have to get off of social media, get out on the water.
Yes, I have to stop talking about fishing and start doing it. Exactly, Eric. You got me pegged. You've got me pegged.
One of the other, speaking of Texas, one of the other organizations that we're affiliated with is Fishing Buddies for Veterans.
There you go.
There's a guy named Norm Wolfschlag who he spent a lot of his career in helicopters stationed with the cavalry at Fort Hood. And I guess it's also, armored cavalry there. Air Cav, Arm Cav.
Air Cav.
And Norm does great work with veterans suffering from PTSD and getting them out fishing as a way for them to just kind of forget all the problems that they have. And we do work with Norm. He's one of the co-founders of that organization. And we've had probably now going on 7-year relationship, with them and the things that they do.
Being a veteran myself, put me in contact with him, please. I'd like to help him. But after I had my heart attack back in 2015, I couldn't work offshore anymore, so I didn't have a job. And I was starting to get depressed, and I was sitting on Facebook one day just going through, thinking I should probably just go out drinking again tonight. And I found an organization called Mission 6, which was local to where I lived, probably 30 miles away, was where most of the guys lived. And I contacted them, told me I'm a veteran, I'm down on my luck, and I'm not working, and I don't have any money, and I love to fish. And the guy said, "Where you live?" And I told him Patterson, Louisiana. And he said, "What are you doing on Saturday?" And I said, "Nothing, obviously." And he said, "I'm going to come and get you. We'll feed you breakfast and dinner, and we're going to take you fishing over here." And he took me out. It was the first time I caught big redfish. It was since that I've become a podcaster. I got the job back with the U.S. government, and I've helped out Mission 6 every chance I got. And I want to give back to these veterans organizations because they helped me through a very difficult time, and they didn't ask for anything in return. But, if I can give back, if I can help out vets, man, I'm going to do it.
And that's what I've found working with Norm, that most of the people that he works with that, will take other vets out fishing are people like yourself who, were helped by others and now, really want to give that back.
And I called both the guys who took me fishing when I was down and out, and I said, you will never know how much you helped me. I can't express it in words. And, and as you've seen, I like words. I mean, I can talk. That's why, I had a radio talk show back in the day. Now I have a podcast. I love talking, and talking about fishing is just very close to my heart. But man, I get a little teared up when I think about those kind of organizations and how much good they do. It just shows me that there still is good left in mankind.
Yeah. The whole, youth fishing and getting kids out fishing is also very important to us. We've been involved in a couple of different things. We worked with, have you ever met Tiffany Rich? I think they call her Snooky. She kind of started the Cast for Kids in the Richmond, Virginia area.
Is that
we worked with her to help her get that started. And as we said, we work with Beverly Yamamoto. But I just know personally, from taking my own granddaughters and nieces and nephews, my own sons, and getting them started in fishing, that it's been, a key thing to get them just the appreciation of being outdoors, of respecting the environment. It's priceless. It's priceless for the future of what we're doing in fishing. Because we're not going to have, 17-pound fish and these programs if there aren't people to pick up that mantle and carry it forward, like the Texas Lunk program, like some of the other programs that are advancing our sport on the side of science.
Yes, exactly. Well, Eric, we're approaching 40 minutes after the hour, so now it's time when I tell my guests to please do some shout outs. Thank people, organizations, companies, corporations that have helped you, or you just want to say thank you to them.
Well, I mean, people that have helped us along the way, as I mentioned earlier, Gary and Beverly Yamamoto, Cheryl Bowden of the Lady Bass Anglers Association.
She's also been on my show. What a good person. Yes.
And of course, Norm Wolfschlag by getting us involved with the veterans. Nick Ferry was the one that got us involved with the Lou Gehrig's initiative at the ALS Society of Philadelphia. Of course, Misty Schmidt and all the work that she does with Pink Fishing. And the Loganes, Alan and Letitia Loganes, who do so much for Pink Fishing down in East Texas with running the tournaments, raising the money, and getting it out to the women who are in the trenches battling the disease day in and day out in their lives. In terms of some of our businesses, a lot of them are guides. Bill Lortz, great guide, New York Country, North Country Bassin. If you want to fish Oneida or Ontario or the Thousand Islands, Bill's the guy. Of course, I mentioned Ryan Said and Marcel Veenstra and Marcel's guide service. They're the ones to get you on smallmouth on Lake St. Clair. Bernie Hoyt, can't say enough about Bernie Hoyt. He's a surf fishing guide. He's a math teacher on Long Island. He's a surf fishing guide. And he writes a blog for us every month on surf casting and surf fishing. And he also has a radio show. It's a local radio show in Long Island, but through apps like Simple Radio and TuneIn, you can listen to his show anytime, just like as if it were a podcast. And they have guests on. We talk about, they just had on a woman from Cornell that does a lot of fisheries research and fisheries management in the state of New York, both saltwater, freshwater. We have Norm Lee. Norm is a guide on Chickamauga in the good weather, and down on some of the lakes like Toho in the winter down in Florida. But if you're coming down to Tennessee and want to fish that legendary Chickamauga, Norman Lee, he's the guy. Of course, all of our lady anglers, Denise Esteta. Denise runs a tournament trail in East Texas called East Texas Lady Anglers. And they have their next event's coming up May 20th for any lady anglers who want to get involved in that as an entree maybe to bigger and better things like the lady bass anglers. And I've most recently developed a relationship with Thunderhawk Lures, and I met the guys from Thunderhawk at the Alabama Fishing Show back in March, and they couldn't throw lures in my bag fast enough, things to try out. And I went fishing down here in Alabama on a smaller lake called Jordan Lake, and I used their lipless crank, which is my favorite crankbait, is a lipless crank.
Yes.
And
rattle trap.
Well,
yeah.
I did really well using their lipless crank, and it has some neat features about how they mount their hooks to the bodies. So check them out, Thunderhawk Lures. And finally, check out Razor Baits. Nick Ferry uses them exclusively on the Susquehanna Flats, and he does very well with their chatterbaits and their topwater baits, spinner baits, and the like. So that's probably it. And just one final shout out to Rob Zorn. I couldn't do what I do and have the fun that I have in fishing without my brother in all this, Rob Zorn. And Rob is the manager at Sport Fishing Outlet in Norristown, Pennsylvania. A great tackle shop. And they're having a big Shimano day with all Shimano reps. And that's coming up on, I think, May 13th. It's the day before Mother's Day in Norristown, Pennsylvania, which is a suburb of Philadelphia. And they have a great shop for both saltwater down the Jersey Shore and also freshwater in that part of Pennsylvania, which is home to people like Gray Buck. So thanks, Rob, for bringing me on and giving me this great opportunity.
Well, I would like to thank you for coming on the show and giving me the opportunity to spread the word of iBass360.
Live the passion.
Live the passion. Live the passion. And guys, I forgot to make an announcement. Bassin Magazine is looking for an advertising sales rep. If you're interested and you'd like to apply, go to Bassin Online. You can see the crawler at the bottom of the screen. Go to contact and contact Brad directly there. Also, Bassin Magazine and the Let's Talk Fishing podcast looking for sponsors, advertisers, whatever you want to call it. What we'll do is we will custom make a package that will fit your company. Other than that, thank you for tuning in to the Bassin Magazine podcast. Bassin Magazine is the official magazine of the Weekend Angler. And guys, it's Wednesday night. Make your plans now. Get out there, go fishing. Enjoy your life. Take it from me. You only get to do this once.
Live the passion.
Live the passion, man. Live the passion. I'm good. That's a great moniker. And stick around, Eric. I want to talk to you after the podcast.
Sure. Check us out on iBass360.com and iBass360 on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Eric.